1860. November. Abraham Lincoln has just won his first election. He is tired, exhausted by the campaign. He returns home to Springfield, Illinois. The house is quiet. Lincoln enters his bedroom and collapses onto a couch in exhaustion. Across from him is a large bureau with a mirror. He lifts his eyes, and he sees his reflection. But something is wrong. At first, he thinks it's a trick of the light, an illusion of a tired mind. But the longer he looks, the colder he feels inside. There are two faces reflected in the mirror. One is familiar, alive, with a healthy color in his cheeks and a sparkle in his eyes. The second face is slightly behind the first. It is ghostly, blurred, but it is definitely him. The same nose, the same forehead. Only this face is deathly pale, like a death mask. It stares at him with empty, expressionless eyes. Lincoln stands up. He approaches the mirror, and the second face vanishes. He lies back down on the couch, and it reappears. Pale, motionless, dead. Lincoln was not a superstitious man. He was a lawyer, a pragmatist. But this phenomenon frightened him so much that he told his wife, Mary Todd, about it. Mary was known for her interest in the occult. She listened to her husband and turned pale. Her verdict was immediate and terrifying. The healthy face, she said, means you will safely live through your first term. And the pale face. She fell silent. The pale face is a sign that you will not live to see the end of your second. We all know what happened 5 years later at Ford's Theater. The prediction came true with chilling accuracy. But what exactly did Lincoln see that evening? Was it a ghost? A hallucination of an overworked brain? Or did he encounter a phenomenon that has haunted humanity for thousands of years? The phenomenon of the doppelgänger, an encounter with one's double. Ancient legends say that if you see your double, you must run. Because it is not just a copy. It is a harbinger of the end. A soulless creature whose only purpose is to take your place. Today we will descend into the darkest corners of the human psyche and folklore. We will analyze the stories of people whose lives turned into a living hell after meeting themselves. We will learn why our brains can make us believe that our loved ones are soulless clones. Prepare yourselves. And just in case, don't look in any mirrors for the next half hour. This is a deep dive into the phenomenon of the doppelgänger. The word doppelgänger comes to us from the German language. Doppel means double. Gänger means goer, the one who walks beside you, a double. In German folklore, this is not simply a twin. It is a supernatural entity, an evil copy of a person. According to belief, each of us has such a shadowy double. It is usually invisible. But sometimes, before a great misfortune or death, the veil drops. And you see it. Or even worse, your friends see it. Take the story of the great poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a rational man and a scientist. In his autobiography, he describes a strange incident. One day, he was riding on horseback on the road to Drusenheim. He had just broken up with a young woman and was feeling dejected. Suddenly, he saw a rider approaching him. The rider was dressed in a strange gray coat with gold trim, an outfit Goethe had never owned. When they drew level, Goethe realized, the rider was himself. The vision lasted a second and then disappeared. Goethe dismissed it as a trick of the imagination. But exactly 8 years later, he was riding on the same road, in the same direction, and suddenly, he looked down at his clothes. He was wearing that very same gray coat with gold trim, the very one he had seen on the Phantom 8 years prior. He hadn't bought it intentionally, it had happened by chance. So did Goethe see his future self? Or had time looped back on itself? In his case, the encounter was harmless, but for others, it was a death sentence. Queen Elizabeth I, a woman of iron will. Shortly before her death, she entered her bedroom and cried out. Lying on her bed was a woman. She was pale and motionless. The queen approached and saw herself. Her double was lying on its deathbed. A few days later, Elizabeth died. Or consider the story of the poet Percy Shelley, the husband of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. A week before his death at sea, Shelley was walking on a terrace. A figure in a cloak approached him. The figure raised its hood. It was Shelley's own face. The double asked him only one question, a strange, frightening question. How long do you mean to be content? What did it mean? Content with life? With himself? Shelley had no time to answer. The figure vanished. A few days later, his boat, the Ariel, was caught in a storm. The poet's body was found on the shore 10 days later. These stories have one thing in common. The double is a messenger. It doesn't attack. It simply appears to say, "Your time is up. I have come to take your place." But there are cultures where the double is not evil. In Scandinavia, there is the concept of the vardöger. It is a forerunner spirit. Has this ever happened to you? You're sitting at home. You hear the front door open. You hear your husband's footsteps in the hallway. The jingle of keys. You call out, "Vei, hello," and walk into the hall. And no one is there. It's unsettling. You think you must have imagined it. But 10 minutes later, the door opens again. Your husband walks in, hangs up his keys, takes the exact same steps. The Scandinavians would say that was the vardöger, your astral double, which always rushes ahead of you. It saves the spot for its owner. This is considered a completely normal phenomenon, just a glitch in the spiritual schedule. But there is one case that fits neither into folklore nor normal logic, a case documented by dozens of witnesses. A case that occurred at an elite girls' boarding school in the 19th century. This is the story of Emily Sagée, a woman who lived side by side with herself. 1845. The elite boarding school for young ladies, Pensiona von Neuelke, in Latvia. The administration hires a new French teacher, Mademoiselle Emily Sagée. She is 32 years old. She is intelligent, beautiful, and highly educated. The students adore her. She seemed to be the perfect employee. But there was one oddity. In the last 16 years, Emily had changed jobs 19 times. 19. No one understood why, until the incidents began. At first, they were minor things. A student would raise her hand in class, and as Emily turned to the blackboard to write, the girls would see a second Emily standing right next to the first. The double would mimic her movements, writing with invisible chalk on the board. It was strange, but it could be chalked up to a trick of the light or a play of shadows. But then, things got worse. One evening, Emily was helping a student fasten her dress before dinner. The girl looked in the mirror and screamed. She saw two Emilys. Two pairs of hands were adjusting her collar. Rumors began to spread through the school. Parents started to worry. But the climax of this story occurred on a clear summer day. And this event had 42 witnesses, 13 students in the classroom and the rest in the garden. The class was busy with needlework. The windows overlooked the garden. The students could clearly see the real Emily Sagée gathering flowers in the garden. They could see her figure plainly through the large French windows. Inside the classroom, the teacher's desk was empty. Suddenly, one of the girls looked up. Sitting in the teacher's chair was Emily Sagée. The girls looked out the window. The real Emily was still in the garden. But she had changed. She was moving slowly, with difficulty, as if every movement took a great effort. She looked tired, almost ill. Meanwhile, the Emily in the chair sat motionless. She did not look at the children. Her gaze was empty. The bravest students decided to investigate. One girl stood up and slowly approached the desk. She reached out her hand and tried to touch the seated figure, and her hand passed through the teacher's shoulder. The girl later recounted that she felt not emptiness, but resistance, as if she were passing her hand through a thick cobweb or a dense fog. The double began to slowly fade away. First, its outlines disappeared, then the entire figure. In the garden, the real Emily immediately straightened up. Her strength returned. The color came back to her cheeks. When asked about it, she said something terrifying. "I was in the garden, gathering flowers, but I was thinking, how I wish I were in the classroom right now, watching over the girls as they sew." Her desire was so strong that a part of her essence had split off and fulfilled it. But the price was high. Every time the double appeared, the real Emily lost her vital energy. She became pale and listless. She was literally sharing her life between two bodies. In a panic, parents began to withdraw their children from the school. The headmaster was forced to dismiss Emily. It was her 20th dismissal. Where did she go next? History does not say. Perhaps she found a place where her double was accepted as a twin sister, or perhaps she simply vanished, completely absorbed by her copy. This case is unique because the double here is not an enemy. It is a projection, but a projection so tangible that dozens of people saw it simultaneously. This forces us to ask a question. What is happening inside the mind of someone who sees a double? Sometimes the problem isn't mystical. Sometimes the problem is in the wiring of our brain. And when that wiring short-circuits, the world turns into a living nightmare. Welcome to the world of Capgras syndrome. Imagine this scenario. You get into an accident, a blow to the head, a coma. A month later, you wake up in the hospital. A woman enters your room. She looks like your wife. She smells like your wife. She knows your dog's name and where the keys to the safe are kept. But you look at her and feel nothing. Zero. Emptiness. Normally, when we see a loved one, our brain does two things. First, the visual cortex recognizes the face. Ah, that's my wife's face. Second, the limbic system, our emotional center, sends a warm signal, a feeling of recognition, affection, love. But after a head injury, this wire between vision and emotion can be severed. The visual cortex says, "This is my wife." The limbic system is silent. There is no emotional response. Your brain panics. It cannot accept a mistake. It thinks, if this were my wife, I would feel something, but I feel nothing. Therefore, this is not her. But she looks exactly like her. So it must be a double, a clone, a robot, a spy who has had plastic surgery. This is called Capgras syndrome, the delusion of negative doubles. This isn't just forgetfulness. It's a deep, paranoid terror. People with this syndrome call the police and whisper that their real family has been killed and replaced by actors. There is a real recording of a 911 call. A man calmly tells the dispatcher, "Please send someone. The woman in my kitchen claims she is my wife. But I know my wife is at work right now. This woman is an impostor. She wants to poison me." The dispatcher asks, "Is she threatening you with a knife?" The man replies, "No, she's making dinner." That's what's so scary. She's doing it too perfectly, as if she's been trained. The most terrifying thing about Capgras syndrome is that it's impossible to convince the person otherwise. You can show him his wife's passport, wedding photos, a DNA test. He will say, "Of course. Forging documents is easy." And they stole the DNA from the real wife when they kidnapped her. Logic becomes the enemy. The more evidence you provide, the more elaborate the conspiracy of doubles seems. There was a case where a patient recognized his mother over the phone. Her voice triggered an emotional response because the auditory pathway in his brain was undamaged. He would have a pleasant conversation with her. But the moment she entered the room, he would start screaming, "Get away! Where is my real mother? What have you done with her?" For him, two mothers existed. The telephone mom, the real one, and the in-the-room mom, the imposter. Sometimes this syndrome leads to tragedy. People attack the doubles, trying to force them to confess where they've hidden the real relatives. They kill the ones they love most, convinced they are killing monsters. But Capgras syndrome only explains why we see doubles in other people. What about those cases when we create a companion for ourselves? When loneliness and fear compel our brain to generate a phantom. This is called the third man factor, and it saves lives in places where survival is impossible. Antarctica, 1916. Ernest Shackleton and his two companions are attempting the impossible. They are crossing the icy mountains of South Georgia Island. Their ship has been crushed by ice. They have no food, no equipment. They are exhausted beyond limit. 36 hours without sleep. If they stop, they will die. Later in his memoirs, Shackleton would write a strange sentence. "It often seemed to me that we were not 3, but 4. His companions, Worsley and Crean, admitted to the same feeling. Each of them sensed the presence of another person. He walked beside them. He was silent, but he was real. The poet T.S. Eliot, inspired by Shackleton's account, wrote in The Wasteland, "Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you." This phenomenon came to be known as the third man factor. It is experienced by mountaineers on Everest, by solo sailors, by victims of terrorist attacks escaping the burning Twin Towers. In moments of extreme stress, when the brain understands that its resources are depleted, it activates an emergency protocol. It splits off a part of the consciousness and projects it outward. Why? So that you have a partner. Humans are social creatures. We survive in a pack. Dying alone is terrifying. So the brain creates a friend for you. This double acts as a navigator. Mountaineer Joe Simpson, who broke his leg in the Andes and crawled across a glacier for days, recounted, "The voice in my head became a separate personality. It commanded me. It said, 'Ye, get up, crawl to that rock, you have to make it.' I hated that voice, but it saved my life." This is the benevolent version of the double. Your guardian angel, created from your own neurons. But there is a dark side to this practice. Tibetan monks call it a tulpa, a thought form. They believe that if you imagine a being for a long time and in great detail, it will gain substance. It will become visible. And, most frighteningly, it will gain a will of its own. Alexandra David-Néel, a French explorer, spent 14 years in Tibet. She decided to conduct an experiment. She created a tulpa in the form of a cheerful, plump monk. At first, he was just an imaginary friend, but after a few months, he began to appear when she hadn't summoned him. He started performing actions she didn't control. Gradually, the cheerful monk began to change. He grew thin. His face became malicious and cunning. He started to frighten her and those around her. Alexandra had to spend 6 months performing complex rituals to dissolve her creation. She said that destroying the tulpa was like killing a living being. It resisted. This leads us to a frightening thought. If we can create a double with the power of our mind in the mountains or in a monastery, could it be that we all live in a world filled with our own projections? What if those people you glimpse in the subway crowd out of the corner of your eye are just someone's forgotten thoughts? And sometimes, in the digital age, these glitches become visible to everyone. Welcome to the 21st century, the age of smartphones, surveillance cameras, and simulation theory. Today, stories of doppelgangers have moved from Gothic castles to the forums of Reddit and 4chan, and they have changed. Now, they are not harbingers of death. They are glitches, errors in the code. A user with the handle Glitch in the Matrix tells a story. He was sitting in a coffee shop in central London, looking out the window, and suddenly he saw himself. The same coat, the same shoes, the same backpack. I was crossing the street. I pulled out my phone to take a picture. But at that moment, the me on the street also pulled out a phone and pointed it at me. We both pressed the button. He looked at me, smiled, and disappeared into the crowd. When I looked at the photo on my phone, it was just the street. He wasn't there. But I swear I saw the flash from his camera. Or consider the NPC phenomenon, non-playable characters. People seriously discuss the theory that the number of real souls in the world is limited. The population is growing too fast. The server can't keep up. So the system starts to copy-paste people. Have you noticed it? 2 women get on the subway, dressed identically. Same hairstyles. They don't know each other. They sit at opposite ends of the car and simultaneously pull out identical books. It's not fashion. It's the system saving on rendering resources. There is the theory of bilocation. Quantum physics tells us that a particle can be in 2 places at once. If we are made of particles, why can't we be smeared out in space? Perhaps Emily Sagée wasn't cursed. Perhaps she was just quantumly unstable. Her wave function hadn't fully collapsed. In 2009, a Google Maps panorama of a street in Switzerland was found. In it, 2 figures were floating in the sky. Upon zooming in, it became clear it was the same person. God? An angel? It turned out to be a glitch in the image stitching. The camera had captured the same pedestrian twice. But that is the explanation for skeptics. For those who believe in the simulation, the doppelganger is a bug report. It's a moment when the textures failed to load properly. And that is far more frightening than ghosts. Because a ghost can be exorcised. You can reason with it. But you cannot reason with software code. If the system decides you're a duplicate, it will simply delete the redundant file. And who's to say which of you is the original? Are you sure that you are you? What if the real you is sitting in another room right now, and you are just a backup copy that was activated this morning? In Japanese mythology, there is a belief. If you meet your doppelganger, you must kill it first. Otherwise, it will kill you and take your life. It is a cruel rule, but it holds a deep meaning. Our entire life is a struggle for identity. We build our self brick by brick, our memories, our habits, our voice. The thought that someone else could simply come along, wear your face like a mask, and live your life is unbearable. Because it devalues us. It means we are not unique. We are replaceable. We are a mass-produced product. Perhaps this is why doppelgangers frighten us so much. Not because they are evil, but because they are proof of our own insignificance. Abraham Lincoln saw his own death in the mirror. Emily Sagée saw her own helplessness. Patients with Capgras syndrome see the betrayal of their closest loved ones. A mirror is a dangerous thing. We trust it every morning. We believe it shows us the truth. But tonight, try an experiment. Stand before a mirror, light a candle, and look into your own eyes. Do not blink. After a minute, your face will begin to shift. Your features will distort. You will see someone else. Someone ancient. Someone alien. Psychologists call this the Troxler effect, fatigue of the optic nerve. But somewhere deep inside, you will know. This is not fatigue. It is him. The one who lives on the other side of the glass. The one who is waiting for his moment. Take care. And remember, if you see me on the street tomorrow and I don't say hello, don't approach me.